Hey everyone, working on Unit 2, Lesson 8, coding activity number 1. This is all about math functions, and math function that we're focusing on for this activity is the math.random method call. So the random function is actually kind of difficult to work with. Whenever I run this code, I'm going to print a random number using this function. It will give me a random number that is between 0 and just less than 1. So the number that it gives here is just this decimal that is very long, complicated, and if I keep doing this, it's never going to give me exactly 1. So in this activity, we are going to try to print a positive integer, actually 10 random integers from 1 up to whatever the user types. Now, to do this, like say I wanted to create an integer, I wanted to select a random integer between 1 and 5. So if I did, for example, in here, if I did 5 times math.random and I run the code, I get 2.4. Now, you see that it is still including this decimal, but we want integers. So in order to get rid of this decimal, all we could do, or all we need to do, is cast this method by calling it int. We'll cast this as an integer. Now, when you cast something as an integer, it is just going to drop the decimal. It doesn't do any rounding, so it is going to take all of this decimal stuff and just get rid of it. So now I should get yeah, that's not working. Hey, so let me wrap all this stuff in parentheses as well. Order of operations, right? So hey, now I get like 3, I can get 2, I can get 1, I can get 0. I'm never actually going to get 5 though. So remember, I'm multiplying these decimal values by 5 and then dropping the decimal values. Since 1 is not included in this function, I'm never going to do 5 times 1 to get 5 as a result. Now again, if I wanted to select any number between 1 and 5, I would have to do one more thing to this statement in here. I would have to add 1 within my call right here. Now it should definitely work. I'll get a random integer between 0 and 4 just from this code. I'll get a random integer between 0 and 4, so I can get like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I'll add 1 to it, and then that will give me the random integers 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now, the only possible values now, whenever I run this code, are going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So definitely a process and something that you're going to want to be, practicing. The random function, I think, it's just going to take practice. Try to come up with different, ranges of different integer types and try to get your code to run those appropriately. Anyways, back to this coding activity. Now that we have at least hopefully a decent idea of what this random function is and what it does, we want to ask the user for a positive integer. So in order to do that, let's set up a scanner. We can go scanner scan, new scanner. So I'm constructing it now, system.in. And then we need to tell the user to enter a, what did it say? Enter. This one is not really that specific, so we'll just say enter a positive integer in my statement. So now we need to set up a variable, store that integer in. So we'll do int. You can call this whatever, just n for number, scan.next int, and then I'll close this. So now, whenever the user inputs, like, for example, 5, it'll store 5 in this value. So we've almost got it at this point, actually. A lot of the work down here is already done. We are casting this as an int data type instead of a double that this function uses. And then we are adding 1. That's just going to get us away from 0. Because we wanted to start at 1, we don't want to start at 0. So I had to add 1 to this function. The only thing that we need to change then is this value. It can change. It's going to change depending on what was entered into this variable n. So instead of using 5 there, I can use n. I think everything else is looking pretty good. Let's run this and just see if it works. Like, I can type in 10, and it should give me a positive integer between 1 and 10. And it did. So I entered 10, and it returned a random number, a random integer returned 6. Now, the only other thing was it wanted to print 10 random integers from 1 to n. So to do that, I think the best way would be create an array, and you can specify the amount, but we don't really know what arrays are yet. So I'm just going to copy and paste this statement until I get to 10. So there's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now when I run the code and I enter a positive integer, I'll go with 10 again. All 10 of these integers that were printed have to be between 1 and 10. What an adventure that was. If we go to the grading, I think everything should be fine. Just remember, whenever you're calling this math.random function, it's only going to return a value between 0 and 1, not inclusive. It's not actually going to return 1, just a decimal very, very close to 1. And then just by multiplying by the range, essentially, that you want, you can specify integers by casting. And then if you don't want to include 0 in your numbers, you can add 1 out here. Fantastic. Everything looks good in this code. Again, just try to practice this. Create different things that, that you want. Not a big deal. Thanks for watching the video, guys. See you in class. Bye-bye.